if you want to surf and you want to get better, you're going to take some waves on the head. You're going to get pounded from time to time. Your board might hit you, and that's all part of the process.
Hey, it's Julie. Welcome to Uncomfy. A lot of us are struggling right now with how to stay open to others when we seem to be living in different realities. I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells with people, but I also don't want to give up on connection. This is a podcast about staying with the moments we usually want to escape, the awkward ones, the tense ones, the ones that can actually teach us something. So let's get uncomfy.
I was feeling just utter despair. I felt just lost and devastated, and it was absolute rock bottom for me.
Friends, I want you to meet Chen. She is today a keynote speaker, a leadership coach, and she's author of a memoir. It's a really incredible and very personal memoir called Like a Wave We Break. The thing you need to know about Chen is that she co-invented and co-founded a company that makes infant incubators that don't require constant electricity. So that's a life-saving innovation for babies all around the world. And that's really key to the story she's going to tell us today. Jane, welcome. It's so great to have you.
It's great to be here.
All right, so that rock bottom moment. Tell us what was going on.
So I had 10 years prior to that co-founded an organization called Embrace that makes low-cost portable incubators for premature babies in resource-constrained settings. And so that took us to places like Nepal and India. And what we discovered doing our research was that so many women, so many mothers were not even able to access a hospital or traditional medical equipment. And that's why these babies were dying. And so based on that, we created a technology that could work in a village setting that didn't require constant electricity and therefore be used by the most vulnerable populations in the world. We wanted to help save 1 million babies. So I graduated, I moved to India for the next 4 years. India was home to 40% of all the world's premature babies. And we launched the product there. We did our clinical studies. We figured out manufacturing. We, figured out how to distribute the product. And it started saving lives, which was incredibly rewarding. And we faced every challenge and setback you could imagine. And so 10 years in, after facing these countless challenges, we ran out of funding and we had to shut down the company. And in that moment, I felt just devastated. I had given my life, my soul, I had sacrificed everything to do this work for 10 years. And it was my purpose, it was my identity. I didn't know who I was without it. And I felt like I had let everyone down, including myself, and I was completely burned out. I was completely burned out. To be totally honest, there was a big part of me that didn't and couldn't be doing this anymore. And yet, I felt like such a failure. And so that's everything that got me to that point.
And it had also been really, really high highs, right? Like Beyonce had invested, right? And you'd been to the White House with Obama. You were on all these magazines. And so I could see where your identity was pretty tied up. Like a lot of people who've had a specific kind of success because of something that they're doing professionally, that's normal, you really cared. You were really invested. But the way you talk about it in the book, it was different. It was, well, unhealthy.
Yeah. And part of it, I was so driven. And over the years, people would ask me, why are you doing this? You could have just gotten a regular corporate job and made a lot of money. I did not take that path coming out of business school. I took a very different path. And I didn't have a clear answer to the why other than I just felt it so strongly. I knew I just wanted to help. I wanted to make an impact. It was a fire that lived inside me, but I didn't know the exact reason why. And I wouldn't understand that for 10 years. But to your point, the highs were incredibly high, and, beyond Obama and Beyonce and, all the folks that supported us, just witnessing the impact our device was making on the lives of mothers and infants, to witness a life being saved was the most rewarding feeling in the world. And at the same time, I was just working around the clock. I never, for years did not take a weekend off. I worked 15-hour days. The whole time I lived in India for 4 years, I made like one friend, And so I worked in really, really unhealthy ways. And it wasn't until the company shut down that I really started to understand why.
Yeah. Well, failure is always uncomfy and painful. But what was the dark side then for you? Like, what was it then that you decided you needed to do in order to like make this worth something or like fix yourself?
Yeah, well, in that moment, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to fix myself. I wanted to feel better. And so I basically packed up my surfboard and a suitcase. I left everything behind. I bought a one-way ticket to Indonesia and I went on a healing journey. And I decided I was going to travel the world trying every healing modality that I could get my hands on. And so tried everything from, self-help seminars to psychedelics to frog poisoning to working really with some incredible teachers and healers from around the world.
But it wasn't, I mean, the one thing I will point out, which was kind of funny to me, I mean, because it sounds like, oh, she's going to go eat, pray, love her way to like some, sort of better way of living, right? No, you were like, all right, where's the most uncomfortable place I can go? Like, I'm not going to just go, I'm not going to experiment with meditation. I'm going to go on a 10-day silent meditation, no, nothing with anybody, like really. And
yes,
you don't do anything part way, it sounds like.
No. Yeah, I went very extreme.
So you're like, how can I burn out on healing?
Yes, exactly. I was like, I had a spreadsheet of all the different healing modalities. I had my CEO hat on. If one thing didn't work, I would pivot, try the next thing. And I was going to very extreme lengths. I burned 14 holes in my leg for a frog poison ceremony. I meditated in the jungle of Indonesia until I was hallucinating. Like, it was very, very extreme and uncomfortable.
Yeah. And ultimately not healing.
Yeah.
To get right to the point, right?
Some began to slowly shift my perspective. But I would say the biggest shift happened for me when I stopped doing and I started feeling. Right? And that's something that many of us are uncomfortable with, is feeling pain, discomfort, heartbreak.
Yeah.
And so I really, really just paused long enough to feel just deep grief and process what had happened in my childhood. So I grew up in a home with a lot of domestic violence. My father was very violent. And it wasn't until this healing journey that I finally connected the dots, that it was feeling so powerless throughout my childhood. That's what had driven me to help the most powerless people in the world. That was the reason for that drive. And it was also what led me to extreme burnout and led me to just wrapping my whole identity in my work and my mission.
An achievement, right? Like it was a very...
Yeah.
And in what ways did that get ingrained, do you think, in you from childhood? This I'm only as good as my accomplishments.
Yeah, it was something that I was taught from very early on. I was beaten if I didn't excel in school, if I didn't achieve. And so that's what was ingrained in me from a very, very early age, that your worth is tied to your achievement, right? And so there was, failure was not acceptable. And as much as I strayed from my parents' hopes of what they wanted me to do, they wanted me to be a doctor or get a big corporate job. And I didn't do any of that. I charted my own path. And yet within that, I carried with me, their work ethic and their expectations around achievement. And so it's very kind of multi-layered. But it wasn't until hitting rock bottom that I began to see that, wow, I actually have never processed that. I've never taken the time to feel through that. And I didn't even know how much all of that impacted me.
So you never had a therapist? I mean, it's so common now,
Yeah, and I did have therapists. It's a great question. I remember in graduate school I'd seen a therapist, and they'd asked me about my childhood, and I was like, that's in the past. Like, let's just leave that in the past and let's focus on what's present. I was battling a big fear of public speaking for years, and so that's what I wanted to address. And I didn't see how that was affected by my past. And so that was just something I thought, well, let's sweep that under the rug, right? And it wasn't until going on this healing journey, and one of the pivotal moments for me was reading The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. What's the thesis there?
Yeah, and Bessel explains the science of trauma. And so what he talks about is that trauma isn't something that just happened in the past, right? It's this event that rewires your brain and your nervous system. And so it's how you bring the past into the present. And it affects every part of your life if you don't really look at it, right? And so that's what had happened, that I had been hardwired to have this like overactivated fight or flight response. And yeah, there's so many remnants of what happened as a child that affected me as an adult, not only in my work, but in my relationships and intimacy, in so many different parts of my life. And I would say the biggest thing was this feeling that I wasn't enough, right? That no matter how much I achieved, how many degrees I got, how many babies I saved, how many accolades I won, I just never felt enough. And there was always a void that nothing could fill.
Something could fill it, but you just hadn't settled on it yet, right?
Yeah, well, I think I needed to heal and find that for myself, and that's really what I emerged as I started to come out the other side of this healing journey. I really began to redefine what resilience is, right? And so for most of my life up until that point, resilience to me meant grit, endurance, pushing through, right? Like there's a problem, I'd bulldoze my way through it. And that's what I think is leading to this burnout epidemic, and now I see resilience in a totally different way. I think the foundation of resilience is self-compassion, right? Because self-compassion is what allows us to take risks and fail and know we're still going to be okay, because that doesn't dictate who we are.
Was there a particular practice, Jane, or I don't know, form of therapy that allowed you to kind of start to feel that self-compassion?
So, in the healing journey, I still, even as I was doing this work, felt that there was like this magic bullet. And if I just found the magic bullet, then I could be healed, right? And so as I'm trying all these different things, I explored a modality called psychodrama, it's a group therapy, and you get people in the group to play the role of your parents and reenact certain things that happened. And then you pick a different set of people to play the role of your ideal parents. And the idea is to give yourself a more loving alternative of what might have happened, right? A more loving and nurturing alternative. And I thought, if I just find my ideal father, I will be healed forever. And so I went out in search of my ideal father, and tried this with multiple people. But ultimately, I found a friend to play the role, and I wrote down every sentence I wanted him to say to me on a piece of paper.
Things you wished you had heard from your own father.
Yes. Okay. And so we got to the day I'd set up the perfect space, I'd written the lines, I chose the perfect ideal father, and my friend reads these lines to me, and I feel nothing. And so I was so aggravated, like, why isn't this working? And I happened to have a picture of myself as a 5-year-old on my coffee table. And so I picked up that picture, I picked up the piece of paper with the script, and I read every line of that script to myself. And I told that little girl how worthy she was. I told her how lovable she was. I told her I would never leave her. And for the first time, I believed all of that. And I finally realized that all the things that I was looking for out there, they had to come from within me, right? And no one can give us that love. We can't receive it if we're not able to give that to ourselves. And so that's really what I
That's the
believe.
anchor of your identity then now
Yeah. Yeah.
is that you are enough and you know it and you believe
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. So how do we get there? How do we truly
Yeah.
believe that and embody that? And then who are we when we live life from that place of I am enough, right? Then we're no longer living from a place of fear or ego or control. We're living from a place of love and compassion and purpose. And that's the change I want to see in the world. And so that's what I'm dedicating my life to now. I embrace was saved. There's happy ending.
Oh yeah, that's
Listeners will,
exciting. So it's
yeah.
still out there. How many babies, like, have you guys reached that goal yet? The million?
Yes. So as of last year, we reached 1 million babies.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we
People will have
finally
to read
took
the
us.
book to know what the twist is there because it's
Yes.
it did fail, but then it also came back to life, which is
Yes.
great. Are you still involved with Embrace then?
No, it was resurrected. We, as of last year, reached 1 million babies, found a new CEO. I passed the torch. I stepped down to focus on my book launch. And now I'm doing leadership development and training and keynote speaking full time. And I really am just so passionate about what I've learned. I want to share these lessons with everyone else, and I just want to broadcast it, from the top of the hill. And so that's what this book has been about, and the work that I'm doing now.
Is there a particular uncomfy experience that you find yourself kind of working to savor these days or to lean into?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm obsessed with surfing. So I surf every day. It's why I live in Honolulu. And I recently started working with a surf coach. And I was out with him on the North Shore a couple weeks ago. And the North Shore is known for like intense, bigger waves. And I was really scared. And so I kept missing waves or pulling out. I'd like paddle and then pull out because I'd get scared. And my coach turned around and he said to me, if you want to surf and you want to get better, you're going to take some waves on the head. You're going to get pounded from time to time. Your board might hit you. And that's all part of the process. Right. And I was like, you know what? You're totally right. If you really want to live life, if you want to catch the best waves in life, you're going to have to risk failure and falling and rejection and heartbreak and all of it. Right. But if you could stop thinking about what you're afraid of and focus on catching that wave and what you have to look forward to, like that's what's going to help you catch those best waves in life. And so that's something I have been reminding myself through these uncomfortable moments, and just like really practicing what I preach and trying to live that day in and day out.
The book is called Like a Wave We Break. Jane Chen is today a leadership coach. She does workshops. And if you'd like to find out more about the work she does, you can reach her at janemariechen.com. This has been so great. Thanks for your time today, Jen.
Thank you, Julie.
And thank you for getting uncomfy with us today. Have you ever had an uncomfy realization about yourself or, I don't know, an uncomfy failure that actually led to something important for you? I'd love to hear your story. Email uncomfy@byu.edu or find us on social media to continue the conversation. We are at uncomfy.podcast on Instagram. Uncomfy is a BYU radio podcast. Samuel Benson produces it, and the team includes Maggie Mathis and Abby Karras. Our theme music was composed by Kelsey Ney. I'm Julie Rose. Can't wait to get uncomfy with you again next week. Hey friends, it's Julie. I want to tell you about another show I'm really enjoying right now. It's called Kaboom. It's an audio adventure podcast, also from BYU Radio, and it is for the whole family to enjoy together. Every episode features a new adventure with sound effects and professional voice actors. Whether it's a teleportation experiment gone wrong, or an ancient Viking curse wreaking havoc on the high school football team, or a baby dragon hiding in the attic, Kaboom is such a fun listen. It is perfect for chore time, road trips, maybe even bedtime if it doesn't get your kids too amped up. And the best part is that every episode includes some subtle life lessons, insights that you can discuss with your kids. So subscribe to Kaboom on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.